silly love fables. We'll see through the illusions of love to find the treasure in being forever friends. Hello, happy Sunday, guys. It is Sharla Kornegay coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends episode. Happy Sunday evening. I hope you are, as per usual, relaxed, warm, and dry, depending on where you are, because where I live, it snowed. And I'm telling you, we had some days where like spring was in the air. It was good, y'all. It was great. And then the weather was like, oh no, don't get comfortable. It is still winter, okay? Don't think it's springtime. That's what the weather said to us today. Hey, it's another one, Sparks and April J. Caster. Thank you, beautiful people, for joining me. You guys are at the tippity top. You guys didn't miss much. I was literally just talking about how it snowed where I live earlier on today. So the weather was like, no, because it was so nice a few days before that. So, you had like inklings. Some feeling like spring was around the corner. It was like, no, snow is what you're going to get. So hopefully, I don't know where you guys are. Maybe you're at a place where it's warm all the time. I'm happy for you. Take up some of the sunshine for me. But it's cold and it's snowing. But it's all right. I'm here with you guys. So hopefully, you guys are having a great Sunday evening wherever you are. And thank you for popping in with me. So let me introduce myself and let's get into it, because this is one of my favorite nights where we get to introduce some relationship scenarios and we get to be the therapist. So let's get in it. Oh, it's cold in Michigan. Yeah, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, so you feel my pain. You feel what I'm talking about. You probably feel a little bit more than where I am. I'm in PA. So, but yeah, so let me introduce myself for anyone who might be listening for the first time, which I would absolutely love. My name is Sharla Kornegay, a.k.a. Sharla K. I am an author, a recording artist, founder of Interask Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, and this is my show, Forever Friends, titled the same as my group coaching membership. I do relationship coaching, also do performance coaching for people who sing, act, and things like that. But here we talk about all relationship topics, and what I like to provide is just really fundamental principles that you can apply to the stages that our relationships will go through. And so if you're here for the first time, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. If you like anything I say and you're on YouTube, please subscribe, and comment, and you can be notified anytime I'm on. And all the full episodes are on my YouTube channel. So if you're on IG or any other of the other platforms, feel free, mosey on over to my channel on YouTube. It's titled the same, Forever Friends Academy. So feel free to subscribe. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to put at the top of the podcast, I usually put out a quote for you guys. And then I'm going to put out a question, but then we're going to have some scenarios that I'll give to you guys for tonight and see what your thoughts are on it. All right. So the quote for tonight, and I really just saw it from a comment. It's something that I've said in a different way, though, but I liked it. So I was like, let me read it because I don't want to mess it up. Let me read it for you guys and see what your thoughts are on this. All right, so the quote for tonight says, if you want fulfillment in life, you have to do hard, uncomfortable, and inconvenient things. So that's the first part. If you want fulfillment in life, you have to do hard, uncomfortable, and inconvenient things. Sacrifice leads to gain, either for yourself or for those you love. Sacrifice leads to gain, either for yourself or for those who you love. All right? I know it's kind of long, so let me read it one more time so you guys can hear it. All right? So the quote goes like this. If you want fulfillment in life, you have to do hard, uncomfortable, and inconvenient things. Sacrifice leads to gain, either for yourself or for those who you love. I totally agree with that. I think true sacrifice really does lead to gain for yourself or for those who you love. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that's a quote that has some wisdom in it, gems of wisdom in it? Do you think it's something that would be good for you to put at, center of your relationship? Facilitate growth, keep you guys on a good path. It's another one. Spark says, agreed, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, and you know what I love? I saw it on a comment from a video that I saw of a girl who said, a young woman, I mean, I call her girl, a young woman who was doing a video saying that she was calling, to have basically, inconvenience, a call for inconvenience to be kind of put back into our culture, because she was stating that she felt like our culture is in such the opposite, basically, like that everything is convenience, everything is, go by how you feel, what makes you happy. And she said it's just not really doing us any good. I didn't listen to the full video is kind of like passing. But I thought that was so true. And I thought it was great, since we were just talking about on the last podcast about letting nature take its course versus someone who feels like maybe they lay out their standards and they lay out the things that they want in a person. And seeing the difference, which one takes much work. Hey, lovely. I know we're gonna get to the scenario. You didn't miss much. I just put the quote out. Thank you. She said she was talking about my hair. I don't know how it stayed this well. No, yes, I do, because I didn't go outside too much today. I was about to say, because yesterday it was just like Afro-ish. But anyway, so yeah, I agree with it, and it's another one. Sparks agrees with it, and as I was saying before, I think it really tied into what we were talking about, because we've been talking so much extensively about fulfillment and happiness and knowing the difference of those two meanings, as well as what it really means to let nature take its course. And one thing I wanted to say, I didn't want anybody to leave that live chat that we did and think that, me introducing that is saying you don't do anything. I think when you allow nature to take its course, which really means just letting God have its way, and if you stay connected and you allow God to give you guidance on the relationships that you develop, then that means you're letting God's truth and His Spirit identify the nature of the relationships that you enter, right? Sometimes we can jump the gun. Sometimes we can think that people are put in our lives to be in a romantic situation, or put in our lives to be friends that are going to be friends with us for a lifetime, and that's not necessarily the truth. So if we do understand that nature is going to take its course no matter what, and you can probably reflect in your own life, or maybe think of people in your family or friends who you've seen them kind of go through cycles and situations, and you might have even seen them miss opportunities to learn certain lessons, and then you see it come back around again, right? Because nature's going to take its course. It's like you think that maybe whatever you present with your own logical mind, or you feeling like you have more control than you do, or if you feel like you can micromanage something, that it's going to make it have a certain result. And it's just really not necessarily true. So, but if you are in a situation where you feel like you can identify where you're still feeling like you're in fulfillment, or maybe you can't even identify that, but you are feeling unhappy. If you take what I'm saying and say, okay, well, I understand that nature is going to take its course, and I'm going to allow that. It doesn't mean that you don't ask questions as why you're feeling unhappy. You can ask those questions. In fact, I think you should. It should lead for an opportunity, right, to have inward kind of conversations with yourself, and maybe even outward conversations with people who you feel like can offer you sage advice. advice that's backed and fueled by the Spirit of God and truth, to be able to kind of connect the dots for you and maybe, kind of guide you into maybe things that you can do or areas that you can reflect on, or maybe change an angle or perspective that you're looking at. But the idea is that it should open up room for, not for you to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. No, it's really a lot of work, because we don't always like to do that. We don't always like to do that. We feel better when we think that we have a control of something. You can have understanding without it kind of feeling like you have to control something, if that makes any sense. So I just want to say that, because I don't want to leave anyone thinking that on the last podcast. But we're going to get into tonight's scenario. And before I get into the scenario that we have for tonight, I want to ask you guys this question. The question for tonight is basically, what do you feel chemistry is in a relationship? That's the question. What do you feel chemistry is in a relationship? And then a little addendum added on part to that question is, what is compatibility without connection? Or I guess maybe I could say it in this way, it's a little easier. Do you think you can have compatibility with someone without connection? All right, so that is the question for tonight. So I'm going to wait to see if I get some answers from that. And then I'm going to throw out the scenario for tonight. I actually have two scenarios for you guys, because I have the one, actually really have three. I had one that I was thinking about. Then I saw another scenario on someone else's page that I follow on IG. And I was like, ooh, this would be really good to introduce to my Forever Friends community. And then the new, well, I can't say it's new because it's probably not new. When I feel like I'm hearing about something that's like buzzing on the internet, I feel like I'm always late. So it might not be new, but I just heard about it today, of the Love is Blind episode with AD. And mind you, I don't watch the show, but I just thought it was very interesting. Another one of those things that I saw when I was kind of scrolling through, that there was an episode, like I said, I don't know if it's recently, but I just recently found it, where, the show is literally, you go on the show and you possibly can find your partner in life. And the end is that, right, they get married, and basically someone was basically told no at the altar. And I don't know her full name, because like I said, I don't really watch the show, but I know her initials that they had was AD or AB. Anybody who watches the show, and if I'm saying it wrong, correct me. And the guy that she chose, his name was Clay. And hopefully, I hope this is not a spoiler, but I think it's already happened already. But basically, he said no at the altar. So I was going to present that tonight because I thought it was very interesting. So it's another one. Spark says, chemistry has a lot with the unsaid, the agreements and disagreements a lot of times. Okay, that he's answering my question. So you guys, basically, what do you think chemistry is? What do you think chemistry is? So thank you for that. It's another one, Sparks. And welcome, Ali Socks. Thank you for joining me tonight. All right, so I got one answer on that. And really coming across that Love is Blind snippet of that episode is what made me think of presenting that question to you guys tonight about what is chemistry. And I brought it up because I think it's really important. On the little snippet that I saw, there were comments underneath, saying some people were shocked that he said no, but there were a lot of people who weren't, because there were moments on the show where he basically showed many different signs to her, or red flags, to let her know that he wasn't really invested as much as she was. And there was a particular comment that really stood out that said on the show, she said that basically when she met him, that he is the her type, basically her familiar type that she kind of goes after when she's looking back at, the people that she's dated and their personality. And I thought about it because sometimes people can mistake chemistry for familiarity. And I thought it would be a good thing to bring up to you guys. So, chemistry, I'll just expound upon it while I'm waiting for maybe, possibly, people who are typing to answer that question. What is chemistry in relationships? Chemistry is basically compatibility with connection, right? Compatibility and connection. Because compatibility is nothing if you don't have connection. And in fact, I think that when you have compatibility, but you don't have connection, then it just turns into just familiarity. And I thought it was really in that particular episode, in that scene, that shows that basically that, sometimes we can see a person, and because they are either exemplifying or acting in a type of way that we're used to, even if it's a way that maybe if you were growing up in an environment and you saw the dynamic between your parents, whoever you lived with, auntie, uncles, I don't know, grandparents, whoever you saw who exemplifies some type of relationship dynamic, especially if it's in a marital sense, even if it's a situation that you disdain or you dislike and you say you don't even, want to ever kind of reproduce or replicate something like that, because we are people of rhythm, we are people of routine, even though you don't want it, sometimes because you're just around it so much, it just gets impressed upon you, right? And sometimes, right, when you get out of the environment or the scenario, then you get exposed to other people, and hopefully you talk to other people, and it gives you other perspectives and angles, and you're able to kind of grow out of that or see patterns that maybe you might have taken on. And so in that example with her, even though she was able to see, maybe she saw some of those signs, but wanted what she wanted because he was familiar to her. And I think about so many people that I've talked to where in the beginning they thought they had chemistry, all this chemistry with this person, but it was really just familiarity. It was just somebody who was what they were kind of exposed to or were used to. And, I thought of that situation. I remember I had my very first, where I would say a serious boyfriend. He was like that for me. And because I didn't grow up with my father and I didn't have male, presence in my life, I just and saw some of the dysfunction that came along with that, not having that type of protective covering. At a very young age, I said, I'm going to pick people who are safe. It's like, I'm most likely going to get into relationships, right, with opposite sex, and I don't really know how to navigate it. So I'm just going to try to look at their personality and see whoever is the safest for me, But even in that safe part of it, the first person that I connected to was someone who was familiar to me. And even on the outside, it didn't look that way. Many people thought, even though we were so young, and I think I started dating him when I was like 13. I shouldn't have been dating y'all, but it is what it is. But, and on the outside, it looked good because he'd come to school. He'd definitely spoil me, flowers, teddy bears, balloons. Everyone on the outside literally thought, even my husband now, because he came to my school and he saw me, he was like, God, I want that one. She out of all the girls, I really like her. But he found out that I was in a relationship. And when he saw it, he was like, yeah, that looks like it's pretty much a done deal, So I'm just saying that to say how on the outside, everyone thought it was this type of winner, solid relationship. But I knew that in our connection, I don't even know if it's a connection, but really what drew me to him was one that I thought he was safe, and that safety underneath was just a familiarity, And once I realized that, I was like, oh, I can't stay in this anymore. I've got to, I want to grow out of this. I can kind of fast forward this relationship and see that it's not going to be something that's going to be, good for me in the future. It's not going to challenge me. It's just going to kind of keep me stagnant or recreating some of the cycles that I don't even really want to. So I thought it's good to kind of think of that when you're definitely if you're single and you're trying to navigate relationships, but it also applies when you're married, believe it or not, because if compatibility without connection, right, is really just familiarity, on the example that I just gave you, whether you're dating and you are used to certain, whether it's toxic relationship environments or maybe it's just environments like we were just talking about earlier on, where people don't like to be inconvenienced, or people don't like to be challenged, or people don't, they kind of are fearful of going through uncomfortable situations. So you see relationships that are stagnant, but they're not growing, which is also toxic, by the way, but maybe it's not so obviously toxic. You can, in your navigating and trying to choose people, you can literally, right, kind of connect with someone or feel like you're connected with someone, but they're really it's just the familiarity. It's not necessarily true chemistry that has drawn you to them. And then on the other end, if you're married, there's no way, right, to kind of obtain and sustain a relationship over time, through a lifetime, without having some type of routine, without having some type of structure, right? We need the certainty to deal with the uncertainty of life. So that's the beautiful thing about, relationships that elevate into marriage. You have that. You're supposed to have that with each other. And that, for a lot of people, is there's going to be a familiarity, right? There's going to be certain things that we do repetitively. And for a lot of married couples, if they start to lose the connection, that then it becomes monotonous, right? And then it becomes, oh, I'm not happy anymore, or I question whether we're compatible anymore. And, so I think when we're thinking about that on both ends, the idea is that because I always say that, especially in this culture, so many people talk about compatibility, and I would say compatibility is not king. It's not, because one, like we just said, what is compatibility without connection? The connection is what allows the compatibility to actually, right, I guess, for those people to actually stay glued, and for the compatibility to have a great effect in the relationship where they can align and work together. And also kind of, you need energy and you need power to be able to grow together. And the connection is what in the relationship is what does that. So of course that's the two people being connected to each other. I always say in my relationship, Ben and I, we make sure we are staying connected to the source, which is God, and then that becomes the glue that keeps us connected. And I think that's the ultimate connection, because then it's that's the fuel that drives the relationship. That's the fuel that keeps the intrigue, keeps the interest, keeps the love, keeps the connectivity between us, and also will bring clarity of understanding in times, right, of challenge and storm and transition, to make you see clearly that the love and the foundation is still there, even if there are external things that you're dealing with that is going to add pressure to both of you. So that is the beginning of what I wanted to present to you guys. But let's get into these scenarios, and I want to see what your thoughts are on these scenarios. I'm so curious. All right, so the first scenario, and I'm going to go to the page because I don't want to paraphrase it or read it in any type of wrong way. And this is coming from, because I always like to, you guys know me, I always like to give people their flowers where they belong. And sometimes I don't always have a scenario. So it's good to come across another page who has one that I can bring to you guys, and also brings like a different point of view. So this is coming from the page, if you want to check it out, on IG. It's called The Mindset Coach, and it's someone that I follow. And he posted this question. I guess it's a question. It was almost like a personal issue that the person wrote. I don't know if they wrote to him, but he posted it. So this is the scenario. You guys let me know what your thoughts are. It said, my boyfriend of 3 years lost his job last month, which has been a significant challenge for him. He approached me 2 weeks ago and asked if I could help him pay his mortgage, but I told him no. Last week, he presented me with a spreadsheet, y'all. My jaw was literally on the floor. He presented me with a spreadsheet detailing everything he had done for me during our relationship, totaling over $20K in value. He then broke up with me 3 years down the drain, she says. Despite feeling guilty because he never asked for anything, I still feel that if he is truly my man, then he should have something to offer as well. I can't believe this man broke up with me because I told him no. He found a way to pay it. I don't think I was wrong because he's supposed to lead, not me. Plus, I don't live with him. If I was living with him, I would have did it then. Do you see my point? And she put, what are your thoughts? So that's the first scenario I want to present to you guys. What are your thoughts on that? You know, just to surmise it, she's been in a 3-year relationship with a gentleman. Unfortunately, he lost his position at his job, and it's been a challenging time for him. He then comes to her for help to help pay his mortgage. She then says no. And he gets highly upset and literally writes up a spreadsheet detailing all of the things that he has. I guess all of the ways he supported her, all of the ways he's invested in the relationship over the 3 years that accumulated to $20K. And then he breaks up with her. And she says, you know, possibly if I lived with him, then I would have done it, but I'm not living with him. And she understands he's done a lot for her, but he's supposed to lead. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about that situation? Do you understand her point of view? Or do you think that he just completely overreacted? Do you think maybe he wasn't truly, really even, you know, well, I don't want to say invested because he did use clearly some, supported her in some kind of way financially. But I know some of the comments that I was reading when I came across the scenario was some people said, you know, think she should be thanking God because she dodged a bullet, because what man would write up a whole spreadsheet detailing what he gave to you. You probably don't want to be with someone like that long term. So yeah, what do you guys think about that? I'm gonna see what you guys say about that scenario, that situation. Very interesting. I mean, I think, it's so, and it's so, I think it's also, right, the generation of what we live in right now. I think it's so much a kind of a tit for tat, generation when it comes to relationships right now. It's like everyone's calculating what you're doing for each other. And I even came across a video, I think it was last week on TikTok. If I can find it again, I'll pull it up the next time I'm on with you guys and show it. And it was a pastor, and I forget his name, but he made a statement that really stood out to me. He said to his congregation when he was speaking, he said, a woman can make more money than a man. She can make, astronomically a lot of money more than that man. and she can have that. That's fine. But he said, but don't let her take care of you. Don't let her take care of you, though, even though she makes more money than you. And what he said after that was that he was giving an example of him and his wife. And he said, when my wife was in labor with our children, I didn't enter her labor. I couldn't. Well, I don't even know if he said he couldn't. I think I think I put that in there because, I mean, clearly, to not in the way of her, in the way that she pushes the baby out, he can't. But nonetheless, he said, I did not, I didn't enter her labor, or she didn't ask me to enter her labor. So why should she enter mine? And I guess he's basically saying, that a man having to work, earn, provide, pulling his weight, I guess, on his own, in the same way that when she was birthing those children, she had to bear that experience on her own. So I thought that was interesting because I definitely never heard anyone quite put it like that. Now I think there's a difference in that because, like I said, he can't. that literally is an experience that he cannot do, like biologically, he cannot, be able to take her place in that. Whereas money, that's a little different, as far as how we can support each other through it. So I think that's the only part that for me is like they're not one and the same, even though I get it that he's probably saying, well, the positioning of a husband is to provide and things like that, and that he should remain in that position. But there are sometimes things that happen, I'm not saying through the whole thing, and there's many different ways that we can support each other. But let me know. Hopefully I got some of you guys still on because I really am very, very curious to see what you guys think about that. Like I said, do you think that the woman was right in what she was saying in that scenario? Like, well, we're not married, number one. Number two, and for her, it didn't even need to be married. She said, we're not living together. And maybe if we were living together, and, I guess in her logic is like, okay, well, if I'm under the household and this is kind of like a collaborative effort, then yeah, if something happens, I'm going to be willing to pay the mortgage. But I'm not even living with you. Why would I help you pay your mortgage? And, I guess for him, maybe it was, and some people did say this in the comments, that maybe that was a test for her, that he was presenting that as a test for her and seeing if she would be someone who could support him if he, I guess was having a hard time or a challenging time. But I'm like, that's a lot to go. That is a lot to do, just for a test. To do a whole spreadsheet and all of those things. Yeah, I'm not certain about that, but I guess it's possible. It could be that. So let me know. Hopefully I got some of you guys still on. Let me double check if I'm missing any comments on the other forums. When I was thinking, I don't think I have a scenario at all that is exactly like that. But I did think about, in the development of my friendship with my husband in the beginning, I went to college, but then I didn't do that great with my grades I went to Rutgers University, and I'm really smart, but I just, honestly, what the truth is that I really was coming into my own, relationship with God. And once I had that, it was like nothing mattered. I don't know if you ever came across people who, when they first experienced, God and they experience, Christ, and they give their life to Christ. And I was one of those where you're very zealous and it's like, okay, nothing else matters. Heaven is all that matters. And that was me. And my silly behind, if I really was listening to God, right? I would have did my work at college. So basically, I literally threw myself into like any Bible study club, any chorus, all kind of things like that, and totally wasn't looking and wasn't doing my work. So, and I went to a counselor, guidance counselor, because my grades were dropping, and that kind of woke me up. And I asked him, what should I do? And the guidance counselor told me, well, you don't want like Fs, because they will drastically drop your GPA. So he said the best thing I should do was to just withdraw from school and then come back next semester. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me, y'all. He didn't tell me that once you do that, them people, when you take out those loans, they're looking for their money right away, okay? And so when I did that, that's exactly what they did. As soon as I withdrew, they look for their money real quick, and I had to pay that money back before I can go to school. So because of circumstance, I found a job. And so because of that, Ben was still in college, rightfully, because he was doing the right thing. He didn't go so zealous like I did, right? And so because of that, I was making money, and I was really good with saving my money because I didn't really spend it on anything. I just, collected my chips and my coins and saved it. And so I had more money than him at the time because he was still in college and still doing other things. So when we would, go on trips or travel, I had no problem with like spending the money because one, I was just saving it. So it's not in any way, right? That extent of a great weight of the scenario that I gave you guys. But I just can't imagine having something to help or support a true friend or him in not doing it. So I guess that's my perspective and my point of view. Hey, Diamond, how are you, lovely? Thank you for joining me. I don't know when you popped in or if you're still here, but thank you for joining me. I just popped out a scenario to everyone. So let me surmise it for you, just in case you want to give me any feedback on it. I told them about a scenario of a couple who has been in a relationship for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, the boyfriend loses his job, and it's challenging for him. And he asks his girlfriend to basically, could she help him pay his mortgage? She told him no. He got very upset. He then did like an itemized spreadsheet of all the ways that he has helped her, specifically with finances during the 3 years. That came up to like $20K. And then he broke up with her. She thinks that, it's unreasonable, basically, what he was asking her to do, because one, they're not living together. That's not the household that they share. And she said possibly if they were living together, she would have helped him. And he thinks, no, clearly if he's making an itemized spreadsheet to let her know how much he's helped her, that I guess he feels she should be able to reciprocate when he's down, as they say, down on his luck or going through a challenge. So that is the scenario. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that the guy was right? That if we are in a relationship and one person is going through something, if we have it, should we do our best to help them out, or was his request unreasonable? And in the scenario, she said he's the one who's supposed to be leading in the relationship. So that's what you came in on. And I'm waiting to hear if I get some responses. No one has responded just as yet. But I think it's tricky, on here I always say definitely if it's a marriage situation, right? Yes, most definitely. I think you should help. And I've had, I think I'm just a giving person. So I definitely have had, like if I have it, I'm going to give it. And I've definitely had, one scenario where I did give, and the person, I shouldn't have given it to them, because this person was sneaky, for lack of better words. They were sneaky, and they probably didn't deserve, the money that I gave to them. We had a close friend, that asked me to borrow money, $800 to be exact. And I remember when they asked me, and it was like late at night too, that when they called. And I remember trying to get contact Ben, to let him know, because he was a mutual friend of both of ours. And I think that's why I was kind of inclined to give it to him. And he needed it. And I should have known, because even just what he said he needed it for was like, okay, this type of person, But like I said, if I have it, I'm willing to give it to the person. And he basically was saying he was going to have a court case, and I knew the mother of his child as well. And basically he was in, he needed this money to be able to present to the court, or he would, be in trouble and things like that. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it to you, because literally, like I said, I'm a pretty good saver. If I have money, I'm not really a big spender like that. So I had a nice cushion. I was like, sure, I can give that to you. And it was under the impression that he said, I'll give it, give it to you back, give it to you right back. And of course he never did, And then when I told Ben, he was like, you should never give it to him, And I'm like, I thought we were like mutual friends, he's your friend too. I didn't think, because of that, I'm thinking, he wouldn't, cheat me out of it. But I should have definitely known better. And he never gave it to me. And, I'm always the type of person that it's like, if you do something wrong to me, I feel sorry for you. I almost want to kind of like pray for you, because, my attitude is like, I'm a child of the King. I'm a child of God. And so I'm a daughter of God. And so if you do something, that's not in the best intentions towards me, that is only going to boomerang back to you. And that's kind of how I took it. I never really asked for the money back. I didn't even assume that he was going to give it to me back. And believe it or not, like within a year, he was deported. He went, now you can't even come back into the country anymore. And I was just like, whoa. Not that I was wishing any kind of bad thing on him, but it's kind of what we were talking about, the law of nature, and letting nature take its course. It's like, when you are a person who, has good character, and you are a giving person, what you do, so you will reap, on both ends. So because I understand that, there's not really much that I really feel like I have to go out and do to kind of avenge myself or things like that, because I just know how it works. I know how it works, and I honestly feel bad for that person, even outside of them reaping whatever it is that they've sold. The fact that you had to do something already, to me, already says you're in a certain state that I don't wish to be in, because you have to use cunningness and things like that, and deception, to feel like that's the only way you can get what you want. And that already, to me, is kind of like a living hell, and you being in a trap, and you being always having to find someone else to take from. And so I already knew I was in a better positioning and abundant positioning, kind of just live my life like that. So in this situation with the girl, 3 years, that's a while. I kind of understand it from both ends. I definitely understand what she's saying as far as, she just said living together. I would say, well, not married. But I understand from her vantage point in that way. I think, and I don't know, because it's only a little snippet that I saw, but I think if she didn't have it financially, maybe supporting in another way, Let's see what we can come up with, what kind of idea we can come up with to get you the funds and things like that. There's other ways. It doesn't really lay it out with the little paragraph that I saw of the situation, but that would be something that I would say that, you know, could have been done or could have been put in play. Maybe he just felt like she just said no and just left it at that and just left him out there to kind of hang high and dry, and when we have so many different ways that we can support each other. And on his end, I definitely don't like the fact that he definitely wrote up a spreadsheet itemizing what he did throughout the year, because I would agree with the comment that I read, that I don't think you want to be with someone who is calculating the good that they do for you. That's just like, why? Why would you? Why would you do that? Because I'm always talking about the way that you can kind of experience true love, or have true genuine connection, is being able to love someone without having expectations in relationships. And so the fact that he wrote that itemized spreadsheet up to let her know everything that he did, like, I get it, that you want to show that you've been there financially to support her, but that just seems very immature. And maybe it was a moment where he was maybe in his feelings, so that's why he did it. But I don't think that's a good sign for sure. Because what I do for my husband, I'm not trying to calculate that, and what he does for me, he's not trying to calculate that. You do it because you earnestly, truly do love this person, and want to be some kind of supportive aid for them fulfilling their dreams, and going through this life to live a fulfilled life. You want to be supportive in that. I just told you guys, I don't know, wasn't last week, it was a week after, that I just recently went to one of my vocal students' wedding, and man, I was so moved because I went to the wedding, and in weddings, you normatively have, like, the side for the groom and the family side for the bride. Of course, I love that they just kind of said everybody intermingle with each other. There was no one side for the groom, one side for the wife, and I thought that was great. But on top of that, you usually have, like, the first, depending on how big your family is, but let's just say the first two rows is for the family, the immediate family, and I'm not a crier like that. I don't just cry on at a whim on the outside, but I feel things internally, and I always say I'm crying on the inside, even though you don't see it on the out. And it just moved me because she put me in the front row with her family, and I was just like, wow, we have a growing relationship and ties with outside of it with her family, but I just never would think that I would be in that place. But I just say that to say that, this was a vocal student that I had taken on, and I brought all of me to the lessons that I had with her. So, and if you talk to any of my other vocal students, they'll say, we're in there learning music and we're learning songs and things like that, but I cannot not be me. So oftentimes they would come, and they would tell me about things that were going on in their personal life, and it'd be like music and therapy at the same time. Music and coaching at the same time. And I just realized you don't know how much of an impact or an effect that you have on people when you sincerely just show up and truly decide to invest in them without really expecting anything back, because you get the reward of truly just being on purpose. And so I think I just brought that up to say, in the dynamic of any really relationship where the people want to grow in love and grow in truth, that we're not going to be tabulating what one does for the other, but we want to also make sure that we're with people who want to serve as well, right? Want to serve just like you want to serve in the relationship. We might not do it in the same ways all the time because we're skilled differently and we're better at certain things, but that what the capacity that they do have, they will show up in that way to you. So I think it's petty, this kind of circumstance and this situation. And if this circumstance did not come up in the relationship, it would have had to, been, they would have somehow, it would have had to come out, and it would definitely need to be dealt with, because that's not something that you want to grow in a relationship. That type of mentality where it's like I gotta tabulate everything that I do for you, as well as to what extent, what does support look like? That's a good it's a good question to ask, or have a conversation piece to have in a relationship. It's like, what does support look like to you when you are going through a challenging time in a relationship? Because support can show up in many different forms. And of course, if somebody's going through a financial situation, I'm sure you've heard many people say, like, you can't, if somebody's hungry and you just give them a handshake or a hug, that is not meeting the need, just like if somebody's in a financial jam, you can pray for them, but if you don't give them money, in that moment at least, and they don't see it right there and then, it doesn't look like it's meeting the direct need. So I guess for him, that's probably what he was feeling in the scenario. But it definitely showed, the scenario definitely showed that there definitely needs some more growth in that relationship and understanding between both of them. I think on both ends, because listen, we're like sponges, right? When life happens and it squeezes us, what's inside of us comes out, and clearly that was what was inside of both of them. So that's my thought on that situation. I think probably could it have, maybe it didn't need to just end that abruptly, but once he felt like she wasn't supporting him, that was it. But if it was different and maybe he was open to kind of maybe go into some kind of coaching or therapy to kind of, talk about what the underlying issue are, then they could have possibly worked it out. But once he feels like there's no support on her end, when he's come up many times, and I guess, what would have been great to have a little bit more clarity in the situation is if, that that itemized spreadsheet that he gave her, if it did include times where maybe she possibly might needed financial help in that same way. So I can understand if that was the case, why he would feel in one moment where he needed it and didn't ask for anything, as she stipulated that one moment he asks, that she's like, no. And then there's no other, if there is no other support on any other end, then I would totally understand why he would feel the way that he felt in the situation. Because that's one of the things that I can fall. I could feel like I'm on a hill, or a mountain or something like that. And I can fall and close my eyes, and I know Ben will catch me. I know for a fact that he would catch me. And I pray every day that in my own service in our relationship and my own forms and expressions of love, that he feels the same way about me. And I think that's what you want. I think many of us, that's the type of support that we desire, not blind support like my example with giving the friend whose character wasn't necessarily deserving of that. I wouldn't say to do it in that way, but when you find someone who is reciprocating and reflecting the light and love that you are getting from God to reflect to them, and they're embracing that as well as reciprocating it towards you, then when there are times where it's low moments, they should feel like, yeah, that you got them, that you have their back. You will be a support to them. So that is my thoughts on that scenario. And feel free, anyone catching a replay, flood my feed. Let me know what your thoughts are, because I am very curious. Some of the people that have on with me tonight maybe had to pop off. Also, I know some are working, so it's hard to type while you're working to answer the question. So I understand that. So I appreciate you guys, but definitely on the backhand side, I don't even know if that was the right phrase to say. But what I'm saying is, if not now, on the replay, you can let me know what your thoughts are on that. I think it's a good circumstance, especially for the type of climate we're in when it comes to relationships, because it is, oh my goodness, I think I just saw a video, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, where it was a man and a woman talking, and they just kept on talking about, whether the man was the prize or the woman was the prize. And we've talked about that at length on many of my podcasts. Matter of fact, the first one that I came back on the live, that was the very first principle that I introduced, that neither the man or the woman is the prize, that the relationship is the win, because you know that you need each other and that you're better with each other than you are just individually, in your own individual success. So, but it was just so crazy. Like in the conversation, he was like, men are the prize because they have to do, so much to pick find and pick the woman. And the woman was like, well, we're the prize because you're trying to find us, and it was just ridiculous. It was honestly a ridiculous argument, but you'd be surprised to see how many people literally talk about that over and over and over again. And it's like, what? It's literally comparing like apples to oranges, I don't know if any of you, well, I'm sure you probably have experienced times where you feel productive and you're taking a lot of steps and you're doing a lot of actions. And then there are probably other times where you're doing something and you do this big, like you make one strong move that kind of makes a ripple effect, right, on everything else in other areas of your life. And you didn't need to take all of these micro steps. You just did this one strong swing, strong step, strong move that, where you were able to kind of offset things in a positive way. And I think when we start having conversations like comparing in that way what we do for each other, it's like that, because you can say in the conversation, like what the gentleman was saying in the video, of how all the things that men have to do, and in comparison to what they have to do versus to what the woman brings to the table, it's like minuscule, he was saying. But if you take all those actions that the man does, and then you take the fact that, a woman helps to bring life into the world, and that she has to sacrifice her life to do that, that's one act. But that one act is very sacrificial. That one act is monumental, because that's how the legacy is created. But it can't be created unless both of them join together. So they're both very, very much important and a part of, and necessary. Let's say that. They're both necessary, and we can't do it without each other. So, and it happens when they're coming together and they're joining together. So that's why the relationship is the win, and the relationship is the prize, and all the growth and transformation that happens in that process. So I think in that same way, when you're looking at what one does over the other in a relationship, it's that, it's the days where you do like a lot of things and you feel like you're productive. And then there's or one phone call that you can make, or one step or one movement that you can do that literally can sum up all the little steps that you took, the day before, or have a greater impact. So it's not about that. It's about, are we connected, right? How connected are we? I say it all the time on this podcast. Perfection is not required, but connection is. Copyright my husband, Ben says that all the time, and so, but it's the truth. That's what we really want to focus on. Is like, are you connected? Are you chimed in, basically, so that you can know that your movements and your steps that you're making are actually endorsed by God. That's the most important, because when that's the case, then almost everything feels like it falls into alignment, and there's clarity and there's understanding about what you're, experiencing, or at least because sometimes God will tell you do uncertain things, so you might not know everything, but you can trust the guidance. You can trust that where you're going to end up, or that bridge that you're going to cross to get on the other end, is going to be exactly what you need, and it's going to probably afford you beyond what you could have ever imagined or expected. So that's what's most important. Hey, Justin. Thank you for popping in. I'm about to get off now, but I appreciate always seeing you. Yeah, it's been been on for a little while. We had a scenario. We talked about chemistry and what's the difference between compatibility and connection, things like that. Those are some of the things we talked about tonight. So as always, I appreciate all you guys. As always, thank you for everyone who stopped in with me to chat for a little while. And as always, if I have said anything that resonated with you, if you want to hear more, please do go to my YouTube channel. Forever Friends Academy is the title of my YouTube channel. And subscribe, like, and comment. And you'll be notified every time I come on. I come on every Thursday and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless there's some kind of, change in schedule or emergency. But most of the times that's when I consistently come on. So feel free to, again, subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified every time. And you'll also get the live videos at length. The full videos everywhere else. I just post snippets. So feel free to do that if you want to get and dive into specifically the things that are going on in your relationships, in your life, not just romantic relationships, but overall. I do private coaching, one-on-one for individuals, as well as couple coaching. And I also have a group membership titled Forever Friends Academy. So feel free. If you're on IG, click the link in my bio. If you are on YouTube or any other of the platforms, Facebook, Twitch, etc., the link is in the description. Check out some of the snippets. Join, become a member. If you don't want to become a member, but you like what I'm doing, you can also donate there. I appreciate that as well, because everything that I do here goes into me building the business, creating programs, creating exercises, as well as the music that I put out too. So I appreciate you guys. All right. But until next time, I will be back on Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I have had a good time talking to all you folks. Thank you. Miss Mary, oh my goodness, I missed you coming in. Diamond, Justin, it's another one, Sparks, Maya, my little sis, and April. Thank you guys for popping in with me. And for everyone else, until next time, always remember to live, to love freely. Bye.